All right. So welcome to the Compassionate Capitalist podcast and video if you're watching us on YouTube. For those that have listened before, you know what we do here in the information that we tried to provide to entrepreneurs and investors about best practices for getting started with your business, launching your business, getting the capital that you need to grow your business into a thriving thriving opportunity, a thriving business itself. That innovation goes to the market, create jobs, create wealth for those investors that are involved in that. And when I met Lauren and we got introduced, I understood what she did and what her background was. I was like, wow, this is going to be perfect to talk about that in general, but then very specifically to for the women entrepreneurs, the women founders out there, and what does it mean when it comes to raising capital and launching your own business? And we're going to dig into a lot of that stuff. And so let me introduce you to Lauren, and then we'll get started. And she'll fill in some dots for us. So Lauren's company is VC Worthy Business, right? And her expertise is in really helping women entrepreneurs understand how to speak truth to power and be able to invest and be able to pitch to investors. And that's a really terrific skill to have. It's something that I have been developing over many, many years. And when I ran the Angel Investor Group and coached all these different entrepreneurs, that was a big, big piece of it in this gap between women and men and all of that stuff. But how does somebody develop that? And when you understand Lauren's or the knowledge and the skill to be able to teach other people to do that, when you understand Lauren's journey, you're going to understand that. So she's deep background, many, many, many years in operations, and operations are all about, really understanding the mechanisms of making an organization run well and run smoothly. And so she's, a couple of different companies that she's been with. Fitzgerald Analytics was one of the last companies that she was with until she went over to Golden Seeds. And so if you're not familiar with Golden Seeds, I knew them when they were just one chapter. And when they first got started. Golden Seeds is it's a women, I think, and you'll correct me here in just a second, Lauren, but it's all women investors investing in women founders. And here's the thing that in the last, say, I guess probably 15 or 20 years since they first got started, they are one of the largest, most active angel network. They have over 275 members. $120 million have been invested in over 170 companies, and they actually have funds under management. So they are a powerhouse within the angel investor community, and without a doubt within the women oriented world of entrepreneurs and investors. And then from that, Lauren started her business with helping entrepreneurs and specifically women with the VC Worthy Business. So Lauren, first of all, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm really excited for our audience to hear what you have to share. So
thank you so much for having me, Karen. I'm excited.
So talk about your becoming because were you aware of angel investing before you got into Golden Seals? So you were like, oh, wow, this is my dream job, or were you new to it? Talk about how that bridge from traditional operations to the director of operations of Golden Seals happened.
Yeah, so I was a little bit aware. I was in banking previously, and for about 10 years, and heard the term angel investor, knew what venture capital was, but venture capital to me was like, hundreds of millions of dollars. It wasn't sort of the small, what we consider to be, and I'm doing air quotes, small investments. And when I was approached about the position at Golden Seeds, it was really intriguing to take a dive into this world, and a little bit overwhelming because it was, a bunch of former Wall Streeters and, these powerhouse women were, started this angel group, especially the founder. And I was like, what am I getting myself into? But the niche of them focusing on female founded companies was really interesting. And when I took the role, I was, I think, their third employee that they had ever hired.
Oh,
Um, and so, and it's rare for angel groups to be able to, be able to afford a team. There's not a lot of money that goes around in angel groups, which is, I think a little bit of a misnomer. It's really more about investing in companies, not necessarily about staff. And they were just gearing up to raise their second fund, and I literally had got thrown. It was like trial by fire, and I got to see firsthand the issues that female founders go through that I was not aware of. I'm not surprised by it, but I was sort of, taken aback of like, okay, we really haven't come as far as I thought we did when it comes to female founders being able to fundraise for their companies. And the stats of women, only 3%, breaking through that 1 million in revenue ceiling, that blew my mind. And so that was
wow.
where I got my feet wet. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was a great learning experience.
That's really amazing. We're going to get into the nature of women angel investors a little bit, but really, let's 3% of female founders break through to over $1 million in revenue. That's astonishing.
It is
Um,
astonishing,
and
heartbreaking.
is that part of that? I mean, one of the things that I found, I had the opportunity to participate in during the Obama administration, an initiative they had. Prior to that, I'd been involved in various roundtables and things like that, but they had hired an organization to go and do the analytics of women entrepreneurs and founders and why there weren't more. And because there's a lot of women. I, when it comes to small businesses, I think there's more women-owned small businesses than men, but yet we have this challenge where they're not over 1 million. And one of the things that this study found, and I saw it repeated in the roundtables I did then, and later on in some other things. It's because of the types of businesses that they do. They do more lifestyle-based businesses where they're balancing their families and things like that. And so if they make hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're doing well. It's better than the restrictions that they might have had in a job, the other challenges they have, whether it's you know gaining getting promotions within a job. We also have the stigma of that we are just really breaking through with sexual harassment in the workforce and things like that. So a lot of the reasons why women will go start a business and do subjective. But from your own experience of working with golden seeds, and then within your coaching women, what is it that do you see it shifting now, or that women are? Is it a matter of confidence, or a matter of like knowledge base of the STEM sciences and stuff like that, that they might create a scalable technology business or a scalable? Where is it? Is it or is it all of that? It's the confidence factor that they could be a bigger business than what it is versus just desire. They may not desire it, but when they desire it, confidence, but also the type of businesses. Is it both of those that has impacted women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think it is a mix of that. I think it also is an additional stigma of people assume that when a female starts a business, it is a lifestyle business. It is sort of their side hustle, or it's, something to do while the kids are in school. And so, and I think, it's not just men that do that to women. Women do it to other women, where we think that, oh, look, she's starting, her business, her little side business at home. And, it's not going to really be much of anything. Or, oh, you work. I didn't even know that you worked, that you had a job. I think that it's a mixture of everything. I think it is a mix of, that we don't think there inherently is the stigma that women just create small businesses and it's something fun for us to do and bide our time when we're entrepreneurs. I think it is also, we're still playing catch up in the tech world. We sort of missed the bubble in all of that, right? And so I think we're still, even though more and more women are going to technology schools and graduating, I think we're waiting for those entrepreneurs to sort of come up and develop into full-fledged entrepreneurs and have their businesses. And I think it is also, women being able to step in their power and know that they can fundraise. It is daunting and overwhelming. And I think there is also a lack of knowledge around it, so that women come to it a lot of times when it's too late, when they
Hmm.
have, a month left of runway in their business, and they're like, oh, and I can ask people for money and they'll invest in me because I have a business that's actually something that, is scalable and could be big.
Yep.
And they don't know until it's too late, or they're trying to fumble their way through it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a mix of a lot of different things.
So one of the things that I have found, like I'll give an example. This is many, many, many years ago. So when mobile technology was sort of fairly new, people had websites that were just, they were designed for a computer screen. They weren't designed for a little tiny mobile screen. And you might remember back then where you had to scroll side to side and scroll up and down to see a web page on your little thing. And this company, a female led company, had developed an application that would convert the web presence of an existing website into a mobile interface. And she had come out of fashion industry up on Madison Avenue and understood the challenges that a lot of your e-commerce sites had, that had products up there that were hard for people to be able to navigate, and had developed this app. And she was pitching at our group of angel investors, and she had some traction. She had relationships with these people. And her presentation was really great. And then afterwards, it was like yawn from some of the investors. We didn't get the kind of volume that interest that we had, but I thought this was just fascinating that she had this, and it was, clearly there was going to be, it was a bridge to where technology was going, but there's an opportunity within that. And I asked, the investors, some of the investors afterwards, we were like, well, why didn't you like that deal? Or do you like that deal? Well, then why not don't you like that deal? And what they said was, it's a huge opportunity, and she did not address how big the opportunity is. And therefore, we believe that she either lacks the confidence to go after that opportunity in a big way, or she's just missing the mark on it. And therefore, um if it was somebody else doing it, we would want to invest in it, but we don't think that she's the CEO to do this. And I was like, oh my God. And then when I went and gave her feedback, she said, well, I didn't want them to think I was overinflating the opportunity, and they would dismiss me for being like too, whatever. And I was being conservative, that number. I want to be conservative in my numbers and stuff like that. And it was a classic example of one of the phrase that you used when we were preparing for this was being in from a place of power, right? Coming from a place of power and owning what it is that you're doing and knowing you are the one, right? So talk about how women can flip that switch in their brain. And some of it comes, I mean, it's changing a lot. I'll just digress a little bit, because the science behind this has been like team sports and being a leader in teams, and being able to ask for help. Oh, pass me the ball because I can make the shot, right? And women not necessarily having been in that role, where men just sort of like just assume that they can, they'll ask for it and they expect to get it because they've kind of been in that role. But so talk about how you address that and help women to find their place of power so they can, be at that table to say, this is how big, this is the change, this is the problem I'm solving. Talk about that, because I know you do a great job at that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is a hard thing, and it's different for everyone because they need to understand where they lost their power or where they're giving their power up. And the first thing I say to my clients is, look, you have the power. You have the power to make investors money, right? They don't have the power over you. You have the power to make them money. And yes, you have power to make yourself money as well, but they have to step into that. And
Right.
it's not about being someone else. It's not about being more manly right? It's not about standing in front of the room and trying to act like you are a man. That's not what
Yes.
they're looking for. They're looking for you as the founder of this company to be a leader. And the only way that they're going to see that is that you are able to lead yourself through your pitch. You're able to lead yourself through a conversation about your business with investors. And if you can't do that, they start to lose confidence. And if you can't be yourself during a pitch, their investors might feel like something's off and not know what's off. They can't
Right.
put their finger on it. And that's where I think a lot of founders, female founders, have issues. They're like, oh, it went really well. They seem to really like it. And then after the fact, they're like, well, we're a pass. And then they're shocked. But I think part of it is, okay, did you come through? They might have felt that there was a disconnection. They didn't understand why. And if they're feeling uneasy, they say to themselves, okay, I have a gut instinct something's off here. I'm going to pass, because it's their money on the line, right? So they're
Right.
not going to just say, I feel like something's off, but let's keep going with no big deal. It's really, if you are standing and owning the business that you created, and no one knows it better than the founder does. No one. Literally, she's created every aspect of that business. If she can stand there and confidently stand in, I own this, I created this, this has come from me, I'm going to lead this to bigger, better things. And if I'm not the leader, I'm going to figure out who is. I can let that go if I need to let it
Yeah.
go, and I can be real. But I need the funds to be able to continue this. And won't you go on this journey with me? And at the end, we're all going to reap the benefits.
Right. Yeah, spot on there. Yeah, that's, you have to do that sometimes with lots of entrepreneurs, at all points, to switch the thing that you're not asking for a handout. You're not asking from a favor from the investor. You're giving them an opportunity to create wealth through your efforts. And then that sidestep, that really good point that you made. And men have to address this a lot of times too, but women as well, the control issue, that thing that, it's better to be, and this is one of the little things, better to be a rich founder than a poor CEO. And if you're not the right person to lead the company, you can take it so far, but at some point that's part of building the team. And one thing that I think women, may not embrace, that we sort of have wired for, we really do good team building, because if we have the opportunity to be a mother or within a household, we build a team, we solve the problems, we help people navigate their disagreements, we help everybody share their load. We have some of those intrinsic skills. And even if you're not a mother, we find that sometimes when we're the daughter in a family, we take on that role of sisters and siblings and things like that, to be able to do that. So we kind of have that ability. And when you can understand that there's a skill here that you can apply to that and step back if it's appropriate, you're still always going to be the founder. You're still always going to be the visionary, and you can help, launch a company. I've often compared to launching a business like birthing a baby as well. This is, because, right, it takes a long time, a lot of effort. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved in it, right? And then you produce this business. One thing we have to try also, and all entrepreneurs have to do this, is that your baby, when it comes to an investor, your baby may not be the prettiest baby there, right? And just because, right, you got to address the fact that, sometimes when they criticize things, it's not personal. It's just, it's learning and shifting and modifying, so that whether it's to make the prettiest baby, or I use the example of being the prettiest peacock in the room, right? Because all pitches, they're all peacocks, and they're saying, choose me, choose me. How does the female peacock choose this male peacock with all these feathers? Well, you as an entrepreneur, you're the peacock with all of the beautiful feathers, because you're talking about all the great things about your business. And so how do you address it? So as I've kind of painted that picture, talk about that mentality when you're coaching we're coaching the female entrepreneurs to understand their strengths, and not only understanding their story, but how those strengths can be conveyed to that investor audience when they're pitching, that they have these skill sets that may not be something that's like on a resume, but it's something that they know. And it's not just about the marketplace and what the problem they're solving, it's their ability to address that problem.
I think so. It really starts with how you even begin the conversation, right? It is, and sometimes, you have to maybe step into your CEO persona, right? And get into that headspace and become her and pitch. And she's still a part of you. She's still there, right? It's not someone else, it's you. But you got to get into that space and you begin that conversation confidently right from the beginning. And it is understanding where you can highlight your strengths. And I think, number one is the story of where the business became birthed from, right? How you saw that there was an issue and how you came up with a solution that is your business. Total side note, don't spend too much time talking about your solution. I know we love to talk about our children like they're the most amazing thing, but you sometimes spend a little too long there and you lose people. But really stepping into, I created this, I know everything about this, and I can do this. And it doesn't have to necessarily be you using the words to say it. It is an energy, it is a feeling that you give off. And it is, you can control the narrative of the questions that are going to be asked in the beginning. There are certain things in your pitch
Oh,
you
right.
can sort of know that if financials, for instance, if you are okay, I know that they're going to ask based off of my financials this question, you can prepare yourself. So when you go into the Q&A portion, and I mean, now over Zoom, is there really a Q&A anymore? I think it's more just a conversation, but but you're prepared. And if you feel that you are prepared, that whole pitch is going to feel even more prepared. And so you're going to feel like, okay, I can do this. I have this. And also, if, I think the big thing for me is there's a lot of times focus spent on the pitch deck. I have to have my pitch deck look pretty a certain way. And, that's going to be the thing that gets their attention. It has to have all the information in it. No, you need to control the narrative. You need to come up with your script that is yours. And so it flows from you. It doesn't feel like it's robotic. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm at this slide, I need to now talk about my projections. If it comes from you, when you get to that projections part, you're like, okay, I know exactly what I'm saying because it came organically from me. And you stand there with confidence and say,
Yes.
this is where we're going to be in 2 years. And in 5 years, look, we're going to get our money back. And these are our competitors. And this is why we're better than these competitors.
Yeah.
And you're standing in a place of, exactly what you're talking about. You have full confidence about it. And again, it just exudes that energy that is, investors will be attracted to. Like, okay, she knows her stuff. And even if you don't have a background that necessarily fully aligns with the business that you've created, because a lot of times that happens, right? Women see, and entrepreneurs in general, see a gap somewhere, and then they start to explore where, oh, is there anything that, solves this? Oh, no. Okay, maybe I'm just going to keep digging and see, is this something that I can maybe solve? And so, it's even if you don't have the background, it's still connecting the dots of why you are the person, because in an early stage they have to feel that they can invest in you just as much as they can invest in the business. It is
Yes.
hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, and sometimes if an investor feels more confident about the entrepreneur than maybe they do about the business, they might invest anyway because they want to be in the ground floor with that entrepreneur. And I always say you can take a so-so business and a rock star entrepreneur, and she's going to take it to new heights.
Right.
But if you take a so-so entrepreneur and a rock star business, it's going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that old A team with a B product versus a B team with an A product.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So we're a little over halfway through. I want to tell folks to go learn more about VC Worthy Business and how Lauren Kane helps the entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. It's VC Worthy Business, just basically at VC and then worthy and then the word business.com is the website. And on there, the first thing you're going to see is getting investors to open their checkbooks for market disrupting female entrepreneurs. And then within her LinkedIn profile, She describes helping female entrepreneurs position themselves and their business in a way that makes raising capital feel possible, easier, less stressful, and has investors saying, hell yes. Okay. So, two things there: opening the checkbook and the hell yes, right? So, it is in exact science, it's an art to doing that. So, you talked about it, knowing the answers, the questions, and things like that. But explain to our audience that the pitch is not in and of itself. It's the story that you tell that starts the conversation. The goal out of the pitch is to have them want to get more information and sit down and have a conversation with you so you can explain that. So it takes, my experience, it takes a lot of all that stuff to get comfortable in everything that's underneath the story that's at the top. How do you work with your clients and with companies, and how did you gain this experience? Because I know you're a mentor, and you have office hours in Atlanta, here in Atlanta Technology Village, things like that. So talk about, because clearly, obviously, the years you spent at Golden Seeds, you were in the room learning this stuff. But what is your process for making sure that because the fundamentals of what a business has to have for an investor to say yes is fairly consistent, but sometimes there's gaps, the notorious hockey stick projection, right? And knowing your financials and getting to that. So how do you help an entrepreneur understand that they've got to dig deeper to get those answers, to be able to get an entrepreneur, not only to convey the information in such a way, but there's more than just the pitch when it gets an investor to say hell yes. And sometimes entrepreneurs are resistant to doing all of that piece of it. So what's the secret to your success in doing that?
Well, it is a hard thing to get an entrepreneur to see beyond the pitch, and I still have clients that are like, I had a great call with this investor, and I think this is it, and they get really, really excited. I'm like, this is just the beginning, right? It is just the beginning. Really, it starts with even getting the conversation to happen. So that is the first step that we work on, and there really is an investor strategy that begins with getting that meeting. So getting either a response to that email, or getting a response to LinkedIn message, or your tweet, or whatever it may be, how to get those warm intros. And so how to even get yourself in front of investors, making sure it's the right investors, because that's also key. You can pitch a million times. If it's to the wrong people, you're not going to get a check, or you're not going to get the check that you want. You have
Right.
to make sure it's the right investors for your company. And then it's okay, taking a step back and looking at your script and making sure that you have something that is going to be powerful and something that investors are going to want to continue to have a conversation about. And then we dig into, okay, this is what due diligence looks like. Do you have a data room? What is going
Yeah.
to be asked of you? What's going to be expected? And, I now have a system where my clients actually put their information in. I use Procedure. So it's an application system that some angel groups use. Back at Golden Seeds, I actually helped create it. So I know the ins and outs of it really well. But my clients actually apply through the system into my portal. They put in their data room. So then all they need to do, or I need to do, is share it with potential investors, and they have everything there. Yes, there might be a couple things that investors ask you for that you might not have, because everyone does their due diligence a little bit differently. But it's making sure that they're prepared for those conversations and not caught off guard. Because really, yes, the pitch is the easy part, because you have prepared for that over and over again. It is the questions that investors are going to ask you, individual to themselves and how they invest, that you want to make sure you have. You have those appendices in your pitch deck that you can say, oh yes, you want to know that information? Okay, great, here it
Yeah,
is.
here it is.
Or how to handle it when you don't have a piece of information,
Right.
how to respond to an investor and say, you know what, that's a really good question. I have that information, it's not at my fingertips. Let me get back to you later today. And so understanding how to handle all of that, so that, again, they are still in their place of power. they're still in a place of control and feel like, okay, I can do this. This is totally doable and possible. And if you can keep it in, because it's about keeping an investor engaged, right? You don't want to let time go by because you will lose them. Something else shiny will come up and distract them. It happens to all of us, myself included. And so you want to make sure you're on it, and so that it's a very quick process, as quick as it can be. And also you want it to be quick because you want the funds in your bank account as fast as you can so you can grow your business. And so it's really about, from beginning to end, looking at an entire process and making sure they're prepared for it.
Right. They've answered those key questions of, the how they're going to make money, what's the problem they're solving, all of those things, and truly understanding it and not taking a shortcut. And I think part of it, which I'm sure you work with folks on, is assessing, because you're working with them on what their strengths are. And so if they're, say their strength is in marketing, but they don't actually have actual sales experience, it's finding the mentor, the people to be on their board of advisors, or ultimately for part of building the team, and knowing when they've got a gap in the team that they need to be able to succeed in this business, who's going to fill that. And knowing it's okay to not have an answer to that, but know that you will figure it out as you get funding or you get further along, and being able to address it, like you say, in the question. And I think sometimes it's, and maybe women might be a little bit better at this, is listening to hear what the real question is and addressing the question. Not, that's a big thing that I think entrepreneurs need to master, is how to respond to questions and ask just the question. Answer just the question that's being asked, not everything else. So you can get more questions, because the more questions you get, the more engaged you're going to have with your potential investors.
And you don't have to have, again, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to, you can, to your point, you can say, sales, not our strong suit. I'm really looking for advisors or investors where they have this expertise and can help me figure out a better game plan. Or, I'm looking for investors that have access to these type of corporations or connections. Investors want to see, not all, but a lot want to see where they can add some value into the investment that they're making, and or want to feel like the entrepreneur is coachable. That is that coachability factor, right? And so if they can see places where they can either mentor that entrepreneur or make connections with the investment that they're on top of the investment that they're making, then that's where the relationship develops. Because really, it is about the relationship that you develop with the investor. If there's not one there, it is a lot easier for them to say no and to walk away from the conversation. But if you're able to build that rapport and really, I always say, like, to my entrepreneurs, if you get a conversation with an investor, never try and pitch them right from the beginning. Don't try and, hey, we got 20 minutes. I'm going to use 10 to pitch you my company. Amazing. Are you going to write me a check? Thanks. No. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, what
yeah.
happened?
Right.
No, they are human beings too. Hey, where do you live? What type of companies do you like to invest in? What type of investor are you? Get to know them. Where are you vacationing? How are you handling COVID? All of these things, that it develops that relationship that then it helps the entrepreneur sort of calm down. And so when they're ready to pitch in the next conversation or later in that conversation, they feel a little bit more grounded. And also it builds that connection. So it's easier for the investor to say, you know what? I really like you. I'd love to continue that conversation.
Because there are some investors that will invest off of just really believing that this entrepreneur is going to do what they say they're going to do. They like them. And, I've heard that often where, if it wasn't this business, they were going to do some business that was going to be successful. So one of the things I want you, while we're getting ready to wrap up, because I think it's really relevant for the times we're in right now. Traditionally, when you would go through a screening process with an angel group, and you would have, this focal point, and and the investors know, and then they would and it may still work that way for angel groups, because then they gather up and decide about this deal or that deal. With so many of these pitch events and demo days that are happening online, and you don't have the benefit of seeing the eyeballs, am I staying engaged with these investors? The handling of the questions, and then the follow-up that you can happen immediately, where you get to go and mix and mingle because you're in person. Now we're doing this all digitally. Are there any tips or techniques or best practices or things that you've seen, hacks of, this digital delivery that helps entrepreneurs go through that follow-up process to identify who's interested, who's kind of curious, and engaging them after the fact of a digital presentation when you don't have the eyeballs and the handshakes to basically judge that.
Yeah, so there are two things, or actually I guess more than two things. But the first one would be, if you have a team member, or even if you're a solopreneur and you don't really have a team yet, have a friend or family, see if they could join, and take note of who is actually in the event. Most Zoom meetings you can see who's in attendance, not all. So you need to understand the format that you're walking into, and that is like number one. Understand the format and ask the questions, please, about the format. But take note of who's there, and also who asks questions while you are presenting or during Q&A, because you're in it. You're not paying attention to what questions are being asked over to the side. You should be totally focused on listening to what questions are being asked, and not like, okay, so and so, I need to make sure I connect with them after. If you can, in your pitch, flesh out that, okay, I know that these certain questions, if you're able to control it enough, that these few questions are going to come up at the end, then again, you'll be prepared for it. It's just being as prepared as you were to walk into a normal pitch situation. It's just a little bit different. It's, I think in some ways it might be better, because if you're asked to pre-record your pitch, you can actually make sure that the best version is the one that you send in, right? But you have to make sure you ask for help along the way. Are people looking at your recording after you're doing it, and going to be people that give you blunt feedback? If you have mentors, ask them to review, what you did. Ask your mentors to fire questions at you after they watch that video, so that you can be prepared. And again, understand the format. Are you going to have the opportunity to see who are the eyeballs that are looking at your pitch? Are you going to get names after? How are they going to measure interest, right? I've been on a lot of pitch competitions on Zoom where I join, no one engages with me, and I drop off, and I have no idea if they even knew I was there, because it's just the way that they use the format, and it's not good or bad or anything. Everyone's a little bit different, but set yourself up for success in the best way possible, and ask for help. I know sometimes that can be really hard, and sometimes you have to ask for help people that don't entirely understand what it is that you do for a living, but as an entrepreneur. But this will also give them the opportunity. And, just take a breath and realize everyone is in the same boat. We all don't know how this pitch thing is going to go, right? And usually even people putting it on don't know. And, just be open, grounded, and be real. And I think, if you understand, again, the format, that how you're going to be set up, how are you set up for success in that, or how can you set yourself aside and set yourself up for success?
Yeah, and some that's great. I love those points. And there's and some basic stuff that we sometimes take for granted is have your contact information on the bottom of the screen, right? Have it on your PowerPoint, so if they don't, because they may run out of time, and you might have more questions, and you, even as an investor, may not be able to get your question answered. But if the entrepreneur has that information on the thing, they'll write it down, and they might follow up. But I love the idea of having somebody else kind of peeking in and watching to keep track of who's that. Sometimes one of the things that I do when I'm on a call and I'm trying to keep track of everybody, I will do a screen grab of all the little boxes and their names, so that then I can look back and I make a note of it, and I can remember what that person said, or those kind of things. And that sort of helps me on that as well. So um uh let's see, I had one more question I had to ask you, but anything that we've not covered that you would like oh, I know, remember what it was, but I want to cover this, because I think, was it you that was telling me that about the sticky note thing?
Oh, yes, that I had a client that put a sticky note over her.
Yeah, so that's a practice. That goes to your practice thing when you do this, because you can be very nervous as an entrepreneur. So share that, and the outcome, that it wasn't all about the visuals, right? That because she was prepared with
Yes.
her content. So share that story, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I recently had a client who did a 2-minute pitch 3 slides was all she was allowed. It was very short time because there were a lot of other entrepreneurs presenting. And I said, okay, I want you, because it was rapid and, it was out of sort of the norm. She had her, I said, okay, I want you to put breathe on a sticky note. And I always tell, my clients, like, put sticky notes if you need it around your computer. No one can see them as reminders, right? And so she had breathe on a sticky note, not to like rush too much through her pitch, to like take a breath and have a moment, even though she had like literally seconds. And she put the sticky note half over her camera through her whole pitch. And, and so, but you know what? I mean, we laughed about it. She found the humor in it. I actually think it made her memorable. So to potential investors, but it was one of those things that you can be very prepared and the little things happen. And the fact that you're able to laugh about it after and find the humor in it, then you'll be fine. You know what? It all works out.
We're on a journey. You're never going to get all your money from your first pitch. You're going to be doing dozens, if not 100 pitches to get all the investors that you need in your funnel. So you learn something from every time. And follow through is so important, because in that case, she had investors that were interested. And so as she progresses through and she accomplishes milestones, or she gets other people investing, then she can come back to those people that were saying, hey, this is my progress, because that's a big part of it. It's a journey. And as you say, the relationships that you form, there's investors, there's all kinds of reasons why they don't invest today. Could be they're not liquid at this moment in time. That shiny object thing that you talked about, right? So as you stay in touch with them, you move them through your funnel, and at some point in time, and because you stay in touch with them, it may not be them, but they may know somebody because they like you, that they'll introduce you to. All of those things, right?
Yes, 100%. Always ask for introductions. Always. You never
Yeah.
know where it will take you.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add, Lauren, before we say goodbye?
Thank you. No, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. I really, really have enjoyed having you on the show. I think it's been tremendous value for the entrepreneurs that are listening, and also for the investors that are listening to, think, cut some slack through for those nervous entrepreneurs that are stumbling around. See through some of the language as to what the opportunity is. If there's something that they missed the boat on because they really haven't figured out their customer acquisition model or something like that, say, be real with them. Say, look, I like your idea, I like the problem, but I think you need to still really work through your customer acquisition model. And as stay in touch with me. I'm not 100% no, I'm unlikely, but be real. Don't sell false hope to these entrepreneurs, to your point of the people that get on the phone. Oh, I think it really, really great, because investors they never want to pop an entrepreneur's bubble, but I always say, we're all big boys and girls. And you can know that with a reason is 100% better than a a mamby-pamby, dodge the issue, not yet, not quite a no, not quite a yes. You're just sort of this kind of a thing. Just be real, investors out there, with your entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs, it's okay to say, well, what would it take for you to make an investment decision as well?
100%.
So, all right. Lauren Kane with VC Worthy Business. Please go and learn more, and get engaged on her website, and get the help that you need, because if you've got a dream and a vision for an innovation that you want to bring to the market, you have the ability to engage those investors, that they'll make money with you along the way. And as the compassionate capitalist, that's innovation going to the market, creating jobs and creating wealth for all those involved. And there we have it. Thank you very much, Lauren, for being on my podcast and this video. And to everybody else out there, onwards and upwards. Thanks.